So then when we found out she was going away, I said, would you like a party? She said, oh yes. Then I said, would you like people to make a few comments about you after the dinner? Certainly, I would love it. So, this is all about you tonight.
Sure, yes.
Yes.
Enjoy yourself.
Okay, you can have it.
He's looking at me, smile at your
You should ask Rick.
We ran for school board. We met for 1 whole year, and Jan never missed a meeting, ever. We met as we developed our plan. Then it came time we had to campaign. I want you to know, I think Jan walked every street in this town. I can still see her in High Street. You know, in High Street, I have to go up a lot of steps to get to many of the houses. Jan would be up the steps, down the steps, up the steps. And she really stood behind us.
And good result, you won, 2 to 1.
2 to 1. Another memory is, for some of you who know me, I do lots of traveling to see a lot of my clients, and sometimes Jan would ride with me, many times, years ago. And what I know about Jan is she's comfortable with an ambassador from Korea, and she would be very comfortable and relate very well to some of the children that I work with. And one particularly young girl who had lots of issues and had lots of disabilities loved Jan. She never knew her name, but every time I still hear from her, she'll say, how's your friend doing? So next time she calls me, I'll have to tell her that my friend is leaving. So Jan, we love you very much, and we're going to miss you, but we know that you're excited, and you will liven up their book club. I have no idea.
I want to thank Jan for what she's done for my family and myself over the past 50 years. It's kind of hard to believe it's been 50 years, but Jim and I were good friends, and we had this thing where I think I was in high school, but we'd watch Monday Night Football together in the basement. Yeah. And Jim was this great chef, and so halftime, at like 11 o'clock at night, gotta have oysters. Do you want oysters Rockefeller or oysters Gino this week? And he'd get in there and make this incredible mess. I mean, just, we never thought about the dish, you know. Jan would wake up to this chaos, and this, you know, went on for years. And Jan was always there for my parents when they got older, and did wonderful things for them. And I always thought, well, you know, I'm around, I'll be able to help out. But now you're going, so I'll have to go to Providence at least once a year to check in, and I will. And I really thank you for everything all these years. But the one thing I'll ask is if you're going to still make the candy, save it for me. I'll be there to get it.
It's gone. Those days are gone forever. And I know that as I went around the various places, doctor's offices, and telling them that I was moving, quite a few of them mentioned that they would miss me. And then they said, and the Christmas candy.
Well, Jan, you and I have shared a lot over 35 years. Good, bad, frustrating, tearful, hurt, joy, pain, the whole 9 yards. So I started to think, how in the heck am I going to talk about that? Well, You know, the old vaudeville thing, I just have a few words to say and they bring out this big scroll, or just one piece of paper. I'm not a writer, I'm not a poet.
But never at a loss for words.
Never at a loss for words. And I just know what I feel inside. So yesterday, these words came to me, all right? There once was a lady who bought a big book and said, I will finish this book no matter how long it took her to read to page 50. And said to herself, this book is really not so nifty. Oh my, what will I do? It's a book I cannot get through. So she began to think, and suddenly she had a blink. She knows that one. So she picked up her phone, dialed, and soon was said, book club, oh book club. Read my big book, please, and put my mind at ease. For very soon I shall move north, and will not know how it ends before I go forth. There's more here. And the book club said, yes, we will read your big book, and have no fear, for you are one with us, though we will not be very near. And when each of us reads our books, we will know you are present in spirit and love deep in our heart, for nothing can keep us apart. So let us not frown and be blue, because for you, Jan, and for us, it is not a time to be sad because your time here is over. Rather, it's a time joyfully to give thanks for you and the many blessings you have given to us and to so many. So go in peace and take with you all the love we have.
I'm actually Janet's grandson, and to be honest, coming up with her remarks has been quite a challenge with me, because Janet, over the past 23 years I've been alive, has done a lot for me, and I'm truly grateful that she's been such an influential figure in my life. You know, she's always got me to become interested in politics, as we may know. Jan's very politically active, and along with her very intense personality. So I thank her for that. Of course, she's always been an avid reader, and unfortunately, I haven't read as much as she has. But I'm very, very thankful for introducing me to the literature that you told me about, and the fact that I've experienced some very hard times in my life, especially throughout high school. But Janet was always there for me, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And to be honest, one of the reasons why that I've been able to I'm really gonna miss you already.
I've been lucky to have you, Patsy.
But
Thank you.
the thing is that, luckily, I'm going to be able to drive her up to Wellesley for a college reunion next month, and I'm very, very happy about that. I'm very happy that she's had such a huge impact. She's been such a great influence in my life, and I'm very thankful for that. Thank you.
I must say, I always thought I was extremely fortunate to have a family in town. So I can see them grow up, watch graduations, hear their music concerts, and so on. And also go to supper there every Sunday night. I've been very lucky.
Hi, I'm Margaret Piper, and Jan and I served on the Intermediate Unit Board together, and that was at the time when you drove long distances to go to one county or the other. And so we had lots of time and opportunity to talk, and it was through those conversations that I was invited to join the book group. And that's just been absolutely spectacular. So thank you very much. But I'm going to still miss the times that we were riding back and forth to book group together. And so we expect a lot of regular emails. We expect a list of books that you really are enjoying reading. And if you're in the area visiting family here, we want you to let us know, okay? Very good.
Well, and the book group, I want to thank the book group for putting on this wonderful party. It's really great. And I appreciate it very much. I haven't gotten to enjoy parties. The chauffeur.
Janet, it ain't over till the chauffeur sings. When Lois began her meteoric rise in the world of socialization and skills, and I learned that she was going to run for school board, I thought, well, that's nice. Janet and Oscar, their president, became her very able mentors during those early years. And I learned somewhat from a distance about politics. And the first thing I learned was that every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of every month is when they met, which became every other Tuesday, and often became every Tuesday. This meant I had to rapidly learn how to feed myself. As you can see, I have been very successful. Now, I began by asking Lois what she did to make the food so tasty, and I said, like a chicken. She said, well, I wash it off and put it in the roaster and put some salt and pepper. What temperature? About 350. Well, what gives it the flavor? She said, the flavor is in the meat. What do you do for a roast beef? I wash it off, and I put some onion, dried onion on it, and I put some carrots and potatoes and celery, and I wrap it in tin foil. What temperature? About 350. Oh, I said, well, now don't help me. If I want to do a roast pork, I wash it off, and I put it in at 350. She says, you got it. That became a fairly middling course in self-taught culinary arts. Which leads me, this is only 22 minutes, which leads me to having met Jan already, who began after a year or two to bring her special toffee that she gave me. I came to know that this was made in a large cookie sheet, probably many. And I always saved half of it because my oldest daughter liked toffee as much as I. Well, after a few years, that was normal. I would ask the cooks, how do you make this or how do you make that? And they tell me. So I asked Jim, well, how do you do the coffee? She says, I'm not telling you that. And one year, though, she gave me a candy thermometer, which I have. And thus began the experimentation of cooking sugar, which takes a lot of heat. And I did manage to learn how to make divinity fudge, some other fudges, not microwave, and almost got to toffee. I thought I had the right temperature, and when I poured it, I had a wonderful sheet of pecan praline. No more trips to Virginia. Thank you very much for sharing that with me. And tonight, I'm not going to ask you for the recipe.
My sister-in-law gave me that recipe, and then later she called me and she said, oh, I made a mistake. 2 ladies in Maplewood, New Jersey, 2 sisters, made it and sold it. And one of the sisters was furious that the other sister had given the recipe. So Helen swore that nobody would ever let it pass out in the family. So in order to get the recipe, you had to marry into the family. But I made over 100 pounds every Christmas for decades, and no more. No more.
Well, I was about to say I wasn't going to speak unless I got the recipe for the Christmas candy, but I'm not going to marry into your family, Jan said. So I'm Becky Renner, myself, my husband Nigel, my daughter Sabrina. We've been Jan's neighbors for 20 years.
Wonderful neighbors.
And So my husband and I had come from London and we wanted to find a quiet place to live with beautiful nature. And we got to Williamsport and we knew we had the beautiful nature. But we weren't too sure about this rural scene. People didn't seem to be interested in the kind of stuff we were interested in. And then one day, this woman, tall and erect with a clipboard, comes striding around and she's got checklists and she has a trail of contractors following her around. Do this, do that. And I'm like, wow, check this lady out. It was Jan, right? And next thing you know, she moves in next to me. And she's interested in books. She's interested in music. She has beautiful art on her walls. I've got a little girl who's going to school. She was on the school board. Every time I want to know, how do I get the teachers to do this interesting thing? How do I interject more science into the schools? It's what would Jan do, right? WWJD, right? I go see Jan. Hey, Jan.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Jan. They've done this, they've done that, what should I do? And she'd never come right out and tell me. She was kind of coy. She'd be like, well, what did they say when you asked them that? And how about this? And before you know it, I'd figure out what to do, and it would all work out fine. And that example of how to be a strong woman in this world and how to live a great life was there, right next door, every day. It was just amazing to me. And, we went through the great drainage wars together. I remember one night, it was like that movie, The Flood. I mean, there was water coursing down between our houses, and we're out there with shovels, and we're trying to dig. And it was an amazing bonding experience. Unfortunately, it hasn't been the best experience it could possibly be, but, we weathered it as best as we could. So, for everything, words fail me.
Wonderful neighbors. The kind of neighbors that when the last time my place flooded and it wiped out my telephone, I knocked on their door at 2:45 in the morning and they came over and helped and lent me the phone and everything. And Rebecca in particular has been a big help in putting me in touch with some people to alleviate the flooding. Now, we've had a lot of rain. I would never say that my problems are solved, but it has some of the things she set in motion have been a big help. So they have been great neighbors.
Like Ralph, Jim is where it started with me. And I own Stereo Shop, Joe Myers, my wife Sue. And I was working at Stereo House. And Jim was a customer. We got to know each other because of the shared love of jazz. And as time went on, be over there some, but he invited me he got invited to do a jazz radio show and asked me to help him. And he wanted to record it at home and then take it in the radio station. He didn't want to do it at the radio station. So I'd come over every week and we'd record things and we'd have dinner. Sometimes Slater was there, sometimes Burr, sometimes your sisters, but I got to know the family through that. I also got to know Jan, and it was great. It was just, what different conversations you had with Jim and Jan. It was just always, and Sue and I always loved it when Jim was doing his rounds and he'd come to our house. We lived near Divine, when it was more of a regular hospital, and he'd come in and say hi to the dog, say hi to us, and like 3 minutes later, we'd go out and talk to her about medical things, talk to me about jazz, and that was it. But you and I would talk more and more, and I had a unique book club with Jan. Then I became a sales rep and was traveling in my business 50,000 miles a year. So books on tape was a wonderful thing. So you and Sally Williamson
who was
and
a former member of the book club.
Yep. And the three of us shared books on tapes, and then we picked, each one of us had turns we had turns to pick the tapes, and so I read some stuff I never thought I would have read, and they read some things that I picked, and so it was great, really enjoyed those times. We didn't talk about them a whole lot, like the other book clubs I imagine, but we did share some things, so it was pretty good that way. So it was very special times, and always enjoyed, it's funny, but, when you were taping things and all the rest, and something came up, you needed help, I was always just so happy to come visit with you, and it was always a great time. And I got to know your mom the same way, so it was really great. So it's wonderful, so it's been really good, and Sue's enjoyed all our, times together too.
Well, and you have been a huge help many times with problems in the Wi-Fi or the TV and so on and so on. Well, so now I do remember that. We had a dog at the time. I had to walk him, and so, I had the Walkman. And we read a lot of Churchill for some reason or other.
That'd be me.
I have noticed that several people, when they talk about what they will miss, they talk about my opinions. I'm opinionated?
Oh my gosh.
I must say I am very grateful to the book club, not only for having this party, but also for 34 years of companionship, and that has been really wonderful. And to many of you other people, I'm looking forward to the new adventure. The downside is I'm going to miss some places, some events, but most of all, people, and especially you all. So here's the friendship. Keep in touch.
Janet has been our friend for near 46 years now. 20 of those 46 years, she was my boss. Now imagine that, working for Janet. She was one of 9, but she was the dominant one of 9. And she's the reason the days are here in Williamsport since 1972. Janet chaired the search committee for the school board when Clyde Worcester was retired. And I know that she was widely read. She knew what was going on in urban school districts all up and down the East Coast. I happened to be working in the school district of Philadelphia at the time, and I'm fairly convinced that the only reason I got an interview for the job is because she wanted to find out what was going on in Philadelphia. First-hand information about it. Well, it worked out. I got hired, and we had a 20-year relationship on the school board. It was a wonderful time. I must tell you that she's seen everything in the district. From a 22-day teacher strike in 1974 to 11 years later, seeing our school district named as one of the top 5 music education programs in the country. All of that in 11 years. Janet was wonderful. She was not afraid of controversy, and she allowed her opinion to be leveled when it needed to be leveled, particularly at people who were irrational about so many things. She would tolerate controversy if it was because the district had made a bold step in the right direction for an educational program and for students, such as introducing a sex education curriculum for junior high school students, closing 5 elementary schools in 1981, reorganizing the school district into middle schools and a 4-year high school, suspending a state championship team coach for improper activities. She was a model school, I can tell you that. And I saw a lot of them over 20 years. They came and they went. And she exemplified what almost any superintendent of schools would desire in a school board member. She was policy-oriented. She had no personal agenda. She was willing to explore innovative program possibilities. She wanted justifications, costs, and how are we going to evaluate whether they work or not. She supported programs in the face of irrational criticism. For example, the one mother who came to the school board and protested the functional italic handwriting system that we had in the school district because the kid couldn't read her grandmother's cursive notes. Now, maybe that was a real problem, but you know what? After a while, nobody's going to be able to read cursive. They'll all be reading emails and texts. She visited schools to get first-hand observations of what went on in the schools and how the programs were being delivered and how the staff delivered them. But she did it the right way. Not like the time one board member went up to the home economics class with a white glove and dusted the shelves. And another time a school board member got on the school bus and decided he was going to be the disciplinarian on the school bus. Now, Janet understood the fact that the school board member has no authority outside of the school board meeting. But she knew the protocol, call the principal. I'd like to come and visit the school. When is it convenient? Set up a time, date. Either be escorted or on her own. She visited so many of the schools, so many of the times she didn't need an escort. She knew where everything was and who everybody was. Came back with information that she didn't necessarily spill out and tell the board, oh, I was here and I did this, that, and the next thing. But when a discussion came up about something relevant to her observations, that's where Janet was able to say, yes, I saw this happening. Yes, this is the way it's going. Yes, I'm satisfied with the way it's happening. So she understood that the protocols of board membership, and for that, I thank you very, very much. She was probably one of the most steadfast visitors of school programs that we had. So I want to close with this. I can name a number of the many school board members with whom I served in the Williamsport Area School District over 20 years, who made signal contributions to Williamsport's becoming a lighthouse school district. Janet's influence was broad. Her advocacy covered all aspects of the educational program. Janet, this community has been blessed by your many years of service to its children, not only through the school system, but as a volunteer at other organizations such as the Friends of the James V. Brown Library, just to name one of many. Your work has been rewarded by establishing a community that's worth living in. And for that, we thank you.
And our family has been friends with Jan for now over 20 years since we joined Trinity Episcopal Church and where she's a member. But my own connection to Jan goes back actually many, many more years. And that is, I grew up in Kansas, and in Kansas there's not a lot of places to go for field trips and so on, because there's really not much there. Very large state, but not a lot of places. And so the Kansas State House is where every single kid goes in Kansas, and there is a giant and iconic mural from the very famous painter John Stuart Curry. And so not long after meeting Jan, it came up, she said, well, I'm his niece. And the brilliant artwork that was earlier mentioned on her wall, some of it is happy birthday to Jan and so on, John Stuart Curry, interesting pictures and so on her wall, and so I was extremely, I was like, wow, that's very interesting. But so I have two things from before we met Jan and two memories afterwards, all of which we just love you, Jan, and we're really going to miss you. So the two things from before, Liz and I were talking about this before, was things that you told us about yourself that made us even more interested. And so in one case, Liz recounted a story where you were working with a group of preschool children and you had them picking juniper berries for Jim's gin-making operation. Well, we like gin and martinis, and so it was a very impressive story. That was one that Liz remembered, and then I said, well, I remember that Jan, and there's a question as to whether she's opinionated and confident, told us that she liked to cut out, and I apologize if anyone here works for the Sun Gazette, like to cut out errors from the Sun Gazette, and then when an envelope was full, just mail them in circled. Oh my God! This is before we knew her. A story she recounted that I found particularly impressive. Then I was thinking further. We had so many conversations with Jan over the years, I think Jan is a person who's a strong believer in the separation of church and state, except when it comes to filling out petitions for the ballot during church coffee hour, which during the appropriate season you can see her carrying around several, so the to-do checklists for the new house, but the clipboards to get people on the ballot for school board or city council or whatever was the case. And so Jan, she believed in what she believed in, let's put it that way. And then the last memory of the modern era is, which is actually a very long time ago, when our second child, Ben, was born. A stressful time, and people are bringing over meals, and Jan showed up one day and said, "I'm bringing you dinner." And we said, "Well, that's fantastic." And she showed up, and then, I don't know if you remember this or not, but something we both remember, she said, "And I'm going to eat it with you." I didn't bother to split it up, and why don't we just eat together? We just thought that was the greatest thing. It was a stressful time, and it just was the most wonderful thing, one of the warmest things I remember about you. So we're really going to miss you, Jan. You're a wonderful person, so thank you.
Wonderful. Hearing all these nice things, and I didn't even have to die. Thank you all for coming, and it has been just a wonderful time here in Williamsport, mainly because of all of you. Thank you.